Hey, good morning, everybody. I got to shorten up that Wikipedia page, Morgan. And hey, Brian, good stuff. Magic work. I could do some magic. I can put you all asleep in a 3-minute stump speech. It's amazing what we can do. Let me just tell you a little bit about where we are in the state and the budget right now. And love to take questions, but I've been doing this for a little bit, so give you a sense of where we are. The budget cycle starts off with the state of the state. We did that a couple of months ago. The message was COVID was 3 years ago. We got through it better than most states. We kept most things open. We had tens of thousands of people move into the state as opposed to going the other direction. We had more new business startups than we've had in a generation. And we got to keep that positive momentum going. It's state to state. It's less about, handouts and lifelines and rescue. Now it's about recovery and getting people back to work. I'm old, and for the first time in my life, we have 100,000 jobs we're having a hard time filling. And this should be a big opportunity for this state, to grow this state and make sure that it's opportunity for everybody. That was the message from the state of the state. From there, a month later, I have to put numbers to these great principles, and that's the budget address. That was, I guess, about 5 weeks ago. And the budget address, stipulated a couple things. One, as long as we keep working closely with the legislature, our permanent fiscal crisis is over. As long as we continue to maintain the discipline and the fiscal guardrails that helped us, we're not going to be lurching from crisis to crisis, which I think really sapped the energy and optimism of the state going back, more than a generation. And the most important thing there, those fiscal guardrails, is the fact that our very volatile revenue stream, we're like a highly leveraged company for some, the business folks here, in the sense that we have very, our fixed costs are like this, and our revenues are like this. Our revenues are like this because when capital gains and Wall Street bonuses are strong, we're feeling pretty cocky and the governor's a genius. When revenues go down, capital gains goes down, all of a sudden we have a crisis and the governor's an idiot. So I really wanted to maintain the fiscal guardrails, and what that means is those particularly volatile revenues, which is capital gains and the big bonuses, they go to the rainy day fund and they go to pay down pension. People have been talking about paying down our long-term pension obligations, since I was a kid. And, I got to say, over the last 4 years, we paid down about $7.5 billion of pension obligations. And you're not sticking the mission accomplished banner on the aircraft carrier, but we've gone from about 40% funded to 50% funded. And it's pretty good, a little bit the tallest guy in the pygmy colony. We still have a way to go, but we are making progress, and that's what that is. The rainy day fund is so important because if we have a downfall in revenues, and they are going to come, that means I don't have to raise taxes. That don't mean I don't have to cut education funding, assuming it's a normal recession. And we've never been in that position before. And so I'm really pleased that coming out of the box, coming out of that budget address, legislature continued those fiscal guardrails for another 10 years, 5 years with an automatic renewal after year 5. And I think that gives people a lot of confidence that we're living within our means. Secondly, I said I want to do everything I can to get people back to work. And a couple of priorities there. I think that daycare and childcare is really important. We have a lot fewer single parents, a lot fewer moms, to be blunt, in the workforce today than we had 3 years ago. We need everybody who wants to work to be able to get back to work, give them an incentive to get back to work. That's why the expansion of daycare and childcare for me was very important. Secondly is housing. I know it's a little controversial in some of the suburban towns, but we nobody really wanted to move to Connecticut for 30 years. We didn't build all that much housing for the last 30 years. Now there's a real dearth, a real shortage of housing, in particular workforce housing. So I hope to be able to work with the legislature. We've allocated an additional $200 million, which we'll be able to leverage to $1 billion in workforce housing. Every business I talk to that's thinking about expanding in the state, every business I talk to that's thinking about coming to the state says, that's great, you're doing all this in workforce training. I appreciate you got the best educated workforce in the world. Is there housing for those, let's say the young people that want to come and join my company? I need a place for them to live. It's a pretty good place if you got 2.1 kids in a house in the suburbs. Connecticut's okay there. But for, the next generation of employees, that's a big priority. And it also brings our towns and cities, our downtown areas to life. I want to do that working with our municipalities, working with our towns. I want them to take the lead on where that housing should go. But I will tell you that in the last year, we built more housing than, any time in this century. So there is some demand out there right now, and we're building. And finally, workforce. We've got about $100 million devoted to workforce training. I urge, each and every one of you and your businesses, reach out to us. Let us know how we can help support you in terms of training. I'm finding not everybody wants to go to a 2-year or 4-year, but sometimes it's an 18-week certificate program in laser welding, so you can get that job in the supply chain company and get people to work. And then we're reconfiguring our community college, so you're getting back to work, you're earning while you're learning, but then we have more evening classes so you can continue your education. So those are the 3 pillars that I thought were really important in our budget address. And finally, because we've been able to live within our means, because we've had 4 balanced budgets in a row and some surpluses, I'm pushing pretty hard, and I think with some support, the biggest tax cut, biggest middle-class tax cut in the history of this state. I think it's been a long time coming. People have been promising it for ages. It's going to be about a 10% tax cut for everybody earning up to, reducing the rate from 5% to 4.5%, and eliminating the income tax for about half of our working families. That's families earning up to about $50,000 to $60,000. So it gives people an incentive to work, to get back to work, earned income tax credit, tax cut, doing everything we can to get people back in the game and back to work and what that means. All right, so that's my job. I put forward the budget and laid out the broad principles, and now the legislature's in session. So they have a whole variety of hearings coming up. You've probably been following that pretty carefully. There's a lot of spending requests. There's a lot of tax requests in there. So it's your chance to weigh in on what you think is important. There's some people say, look, a tax cut is great, but I prefer a child tax credit or essential worker tax credit or rebates and things like that. I prefer a tax cut. I think it's quicker, simpler, easier, and it's going to save folks that work at your company $20 to $30 per pay period, $50, $60 a month. I think that makes an enormous difference. There's a debate about how much we spend in different categories right now. And the debate gets complicated because let's say University of Connecticut, there was a little bit of discussion about that in the last few weeks. And they go, oh my gosh, you've cut our investment in UConn, it's R&D, these are Connecticut jobs, how can you do that? Well, here's the fact. Our investment in UConn is up about 40% over the last 4 years. It's the biggest investment we had. UConn is going strong. There's many more applications than folks, real opportunity to go there. During the worst of COVID, their residence halls were shut down. Their eating cafeterias were down. They were losing money. So we put a lot of federal money in there to keep them going for a period of time. That emergency is over now, but more to the point are ongoing investments in things like University of Connecticut and mental health and all the ways those investments are continuing and, in fact, increasing a little bit, increasing within the means that we've got. I think I'm going to leave it right there, except to tell you that I love the job. It's a pretty good job. You know, I come out of the business world. I built, helped build telecommunications systems. And if you've been in the business world, you kind of want to be a governor. I mean, it's an executive job. I see Lisa and Melissa and folks here in the legislature. It's just a different, you really have a chance to move the ball every day. And I talked to my friends down in Washington, the Congress people and senators, and it's a different game down there. But here, the rubber meets the road. Every decision you make makes an immediate difference. You feel that every day. And I like to think that the state is making progress. We were a little down on ourselves, I think, going back 5-10 years ago. And you saw that reflected in some of the folks leaving the state. You saw that reflected in just a cloud of pessimism. I like to think people believe in the state. We're turning things around, but I can't do it without each and every one of you, especially folks in the business community. Keep hiring, keep this state growing, keep believing in the state of Connecticut. How's that? I got hours if you have any questions or anything. Yes.
Hi, my name is Jennifer. Not that Jennifer. But I live here in Simsbury. I've been here 13 years. I'm from California originally. I have 3 kids, single mom. I'm starting my own business. I'm on page 35. Payment specialist solution. So I want to talk to you though about recruiting specifically. I know you said 100,000 employees, right? You're trying to hire for the state of Connecticut. So my background is human resources, recruiting specifically. What types of, what is the goal, right? How are you talking about bringing people into Connecticut? What does that look like for them? I know you talked about housing for those individuals, but what are we doing to bring those people?
All right, that's a great question, J-Lo. Thank you. Here's my advice. We have one of the best education systems in the world. That's K through 12. Community colleges rank #1. Colleges, go meet these students at their place. Go to the schools right now. And Stanley Black & Decker, they go to the high schools. They start telling people about making tools, and they get in front. A lot of the big guys do this. You should do that as well in terms of introducing them. Then we've got a lot of resources for internships for the younger kids and apprentice programs. Remember when I graduated back in the Ming Dynasty, you go to the career office and there's a bunch of, pieces of paper pinned to a bulletin board and you called the number. This is your chance to tell people what's amazing about the companies you've got. And maybe this is why they want to be there. Another incentive we put in place, which not enough people are taking advantage of, is we'll give you a 50% tax credit if you start forgiving student loans. So let's say a kid graduates from CCSU and they got $25,000 in debt, and you're paying off, you agree as part of the deal, you'll pay off $6,000 of that. We'll give you a credit for half of that. The reason I'm doing that is that I want the best and the brightest, the kids who come here to Connecticut, to stay in Connecticut. I want them to have a reason to work for a Connecticut company. And I like the fact that you have an incentive to hire from Connecticut graduates as well. Just a couple of thoughts. Yes?
Oh, there's a mic. I'm pretty loud. I didn't get a chance to ask you this at the cost town hall a couple months ago, and it's more of a compliment, but for those of us in Simsbury and Granby, the amount of investment and changes that we've seen at Bradley Airport have, I think, been phenomenal for this region and for the state, and I just kind of wanted to compliment you guys on that. I hear that from everyone coming into the state, family that visits. It's just so easy to get in and out of there now with the parking garage and everything, so compliment.
Hey, thanks, Wendy. That's really true. We have many more destinations out of Bradley than before. It's the second biggest airport next to Logan for New England. Every company I talk to says, tell me about the flights in and out and what a difference that makes. We've also added on Tweed Airport, not quite as convenient for you, but they've got 19 destinations out of there, what that means in terms of central Connecticut, and Sikorsky, which is further down in Bridgeport, Stratford. So we're going to have more. When it comes to transportation, we're making the biggest investments in transportation in history, thanks to the Infrastructure Act. And that also includes, what we got to do for the airports. This will get me in trouble, but we'd do faster on the airports if I had fewer state senators who lived at the end of the runway. That slowed us down in Tweed for quite some time, and I got to work on Sikorsky right now. But that's democracy. Yes. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask a very serious question, if I could, unrelated to business directly. And it has to do with Rensselaer Field and the Excel Center. And I wondered where the state is right now on the repairs and upgrade of the Rensselaer Field facility and also on the Excel Center, which right now this time of year is a very important economic engine for the state.
Yeah, great question. Everything needs a lot of repair in this state. We're an old state, and Excel and Rensselaer are near the top of that list. I was a little bit the fly in the ointment. I'll be blunt about Excel. Everybody said, Governor, let's put another $150 million of taxpayer money in. Let's get Excel going. Let's bring it into the 21st century. And I'm the guy who said, there's already a lot of things that state government doesn't do well. I think managing and operating an event center like Excel, I'd put in that category. I am pleased to be able to come in along with an event company and do the upgrade for Excel. I'm really pleased to say we've got that event company. We're negotiating right now. We're putting our resources in alongside of them. It's an event company that has, let's say, relationships with event centers around the country. So if the Rolling Stones say, I want to play RFK Stadium in Madison Square Garden, they'll say, have you thought about the Excel Center as well? Because we're going to make this a trifecta. I think we're going to get that done. The other one was Rensselaer Field. We're making the repairs on that this year. We got a long way to go. There's a guy named Jim Mora. Do you know who Jim Mora is? I mean, UConn football had a bit of a struggle, and they're kicking right now. They are great. They're beginning to fill up that stadium. I want to showcase where they can showcase the amazing things they do. So that's on our agenda as well. Over here? Sure.
Where am I going?
GP Will Governor, my name is Austin Serio, and I'm a member of the Chicoran Chakri Tribe of South Carolina, and what I do for work is I'm the co-founder of Shock Talk, which is a culturally tailored telemental health platform that focuses on connecting Indigenous folks to Indigenous mental health providers. And so with that, just focused on the welfare of, folks in our state, specifically the Indigenous folks in our state. I just wanted to see, since there's a chance that ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Law, could be struck down on the federal level and the legislature is in session, I just wanted to see if folks had their eye on that and if there's any plans to address that possibly coming up.
This is a lousy answer, but I have no idea. I've got to get back to you on that, and Alan will reach out to you so I can get you a little more specifics on. Can I just say one thing on mental health, though, because that's the broader piece of your question. I mean, we got our schools open, early as anybody in the country. I was really hoping that summer of 2020, we're going to have learning loss in STEM and help our kids hit the ground running so we'd be ready to go in September. And it was hell. I mean, for us, COVID was a little quarantine and we watched Netflix or something. But for a lot of the young folks, it was just so, the loneliness was intense. And we had a hard time getting our kids back into the classroom. So we did, free summer programs. And a lot of that was related to counseling and mental health. Thanks to the legislature, we've had making a large investment in terms of counseling and coaches and mental health in our schools, and more broadly than that, helping everybody get back into the game. And it was something I had to do some learning on as well, what that meant. And you see that reflected. I'm going from here to, we're doing an event on wrong way driving. You probably know that we've had a number of people going the wrong way on the exit ramps, and we've had some really severe fatalities. You may not know it's twice as much as we've ever had before, twice as many wrong way deaths. And, they're on social media, they're doing alcohol. We had this for the last 20 years. So there's a lot of extreme behavior that we're still trying to work through. And that's just one more example of that. I do one more question or let you guys enjoy breakfast? Yeah. Two more questions. Go ahead.
Hi. I'm promoting a book about the governor from Simsbury, George McLean. And I'm wondering, is there a hero you have, a governor that you model yourself on, or other political leader, where you'd say, read this book or look at this person, that's the person I admire?
Well, I got myself in a little bit of trouble the other day because the legislature we have, who's our state hero, our Revolutionary War hero, and Nathan Hale was our hero. A very good guy, a spy. I regret that I have one life to give for my country. He was captured after about a week, and if he had 2 lives to give for his country, he would have been a spy for 2 weeks. So I put in a vote for Noah Webster, and I'll tell you why. I mean, he's right down the street, but he was really one of our founding fathers. If we did not have a common language that was unique to America, that was as important as the Constitution and a lot of the other things that brought our country together. So I don't know him well enough to be a hero, but I think he was heroic. One last, is that you, ma'am?
Hi there, Kim Nato with Coldwell Banker, Simsbury, and Granby. Just asking if you have ever given it a thought to the conveyance tax and trying to jumpstart the market and give incentive for people to sell their homes.
You want a conveyance tax?
No, eliminate it.
Oh. Got it. Look, there's a lot of stuff we can eliminate that would be a net positive, but I would tell you, I think real estate's pretty good right now. When you talk about jump-starting things, interest rates are beginning to creep a little bit, but my understanding is our real estate market is relatively stronger than other parts of the country because there's still demand and there's so little supply. So, what I want to do with Coldwell Banker is make sure you know where all the housing is going out there right now and make sure you're at the front line of making it affordable. It's affordable housing, it's workforce housing, it's market rate housing. It's bringing our towns and cities to life in a way they haven't been maybe in some time. I kind of like the outdoor dining. I don't know where you guys stand on that, but, all of a sudden you see Granby and Simsbury is pretty cool on a Thursday night. People are sitting outside and enjoying things. So I think that's the type of momentum that I'd really try and put forward. But, talk to Melissa in terms of other things we ought to do to, keep the economy going and growing. My fundamental thought is I think the middle class tax cut, as a tax cut for people earning up to about $250,000 would make a real difference and sends the signal that Connecticut is coming back. Thanks, everybody. Love being with you. See you soon.
Funding for Simsbury Community Television is provided in part by contributions from viewers like you. Thank you.